Erwin Smith is probably the most loved commander in AOT history. Fans call him a genius, a visionary, the greatest military mind Paradis ever produced. And honestly, we get it. The man had presence. He had vision. He gave speeches that made soldiers want to die for him. But here is the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Being inspiring and being a good leader are two completely different things. And when you actually look at Erwin's track record, his decisions, his strategies, the people he lost, the picture gets a lot more complicated. So today, we're going to do something the AOT fandom rarely does. We're going to hold Erwin Smith accountable before anyone comes into the comments ready to fight. We're not saying Erwin was a bad person. We're not saying he didn't care about his soldiers. What we're saying is that caring about something and being good at it are not the same thing. Erwin Smith had serious, consistent, repeat failures as a leader, and the fandom has been so busy loving him that nobody has stopped to actually count them. Until now. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most obvious point. Under Erwin Smith's command, the Survey Corps lost soldiers at a rate that should have ended his career 3 times over. In Season 1 alone, the expedition beyond the walls cost them dozens of soldiers and achieves almost nothing strategically. In Season 2, more losses, more deaths. Still, no concrete plan. By the time Shingeki happens in Season 3, Erwin leads the charge against the Beast Titan knowing that the soldiers he is sending forward have almost zero chance of survival. He tells them they are going to die, and he sends them anyway. Now the fandom calls this moment heroic, tragic, beautiful even, and emotionally. Yes, it hits hard, but strategically, a commander just sacrificed his entire remaining force on a charge that had maybe a 5% chance of working. If that charge fails, and it almost did, the Survey Corps is completely finished. Every egg in one basket. On a plan that required Levi to move faster than any human being should be able to move. That is not genius. That is gambling with other people's lives and calling it strategy. Here is something the show actually admits about Erwin directly. His entire motivation for joining the Survey Corps, for becoming a commander, was never about freeing humanity. It was about proving his father's theory. He wanted to know the truth about the outside world. That was his dream, his obsession. And there is nothing wrong with having a personal dream, but when you are the commander of a military force, your dream cannot come before the lives of your soldiers. And Erwin's did consistently. Every expedition, every mission, every decision get me closer to the basement. The soldiers who died in his expeditions didn't die for freedom. They died for Erwin Smith's personal need to know if his father was right, and he knew that he wasn't fit to be the one who inherits the colossal titan. Here is a point that doesn't get talked about enough. Erwin Smith withheld critical information from his own soldiers. He knew about the basement. He knew Grisha Jaeger had secrets. He knew that Eren was more important than just being a titan shifter, and he kept all of it to himself. Why? Because Erwin believed that information was a weapon, and weapons should only be held by people who know how to use them, which sounds logical until you realize soldiers were dying in the field without access to information that could have changed their decisions. What was in that basement? What the outside world actually looked like. The entire strategic approach to the war against Marley could have been different, with less loss of life, but Erwin kept it close to his chest. Because controlling information meant controlling people. Here is the final point. And honestly, this one is the most damning. Erwin Smith led the Survey Corps for years. And in all that time, he never once properly prepared someone to replace him. A great leader builds something that survives them. They develop the people around them. They transfer knowledge. They make sure the mission continues, even if they fall. Erwin did none of that. When he died, the Survey Corps was completely lost. Aang stepped up because there was literally nobody else. Not because Erwin prepared her. So here is where we land on Erwin Smith Was he impressive? Absolutely. Did he genuinely care about his people in his own way? We think so. Erwin Smith was a man who was very good at convincing people to die for him, and very bad at keeping them alive. He prioritized his personal dream over his soldiers. He manipulated instead of inspired. He hoarded information instead of sharing it. And he left no one ready to replace him. The fandom loves Erwin because he was compelling, charismatic. But compelling and charismatic don't show up on the list of soldiers who made it home. Subscribe to Beyond the Plot for more videos that say what the fandom won't. Next week, was Eren actually wrong? The argument nobody wants to make. See you there!